Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And we have a great topic today, one that comes up a lot actually. Why post-divorce relationships are tough. It's a common theme actually that people post-divorce will get into a new relationship a year, 2 years, 6 months, 3 years later, and it'll be great. It'll be everything that they didn't have in their other relationship. And that's why it's usually extra special. And so when they get into this new relationship, what will happen is you, in a lot of cases, not all, you'll get an opposite. You'll get something that you never had before in that marriage. And if that marriage was a long marriage, let's say 5 years plus is applicable to long enough. A lot of people say 5 years is not a long marriage. It's a pretty good run, okay, by modern day standards. It's long enough to have an effect. And if you have one of those relationships, you're going to be dialed in to what that marriage told you about relationships. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you have this recipe that you've been running for a long time, that men and women do this in a relationship. This is how it works. And one of the things that you established in your marriage of 5 years plus is that you stay together thick and thin. Because to stay with someone, I don't care who you are, 5 years plus with the title of marriage, you had to go through some stuff, right? You didn't break up easy. You didn't run away from some issues that you had. And so what's really difficult is if you get into what you think is a better relationship with, let's say, a boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, what have you, after you got divorced and you think, wow, this is outstanding. This is what I've always been looking for. This is so much better than my marriage. She does this, she does that. And like I said, if you hadn't received or been in a relationship where, let's just say, someone went out of their way for you. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're sick and she buys you chicken soup. Very cliche, but you know what I'm talking about. And that was something your ex would never do. That kind of treatment gets elevated because you haven't had it before. You've been neglected of something like that for a long time. And so when you're in this new relationship and something goes wrong and they decide to abort the relationship and get out, you're kind of like, wait a minute, what's this? This isn't even that big a deal. And by the way, this isn't what you do in relationships, because you were just in a marriage that you stayed in way too long. You went through some ups and downs, and now you just have something that's kind of slight and they're willing to jump out of it. That can be a very painful breakup. And we're going to get into that. We have a couple stories on deck. Right now, I'll just say hello to the people in the live stream. Chris the Critic, welcome. Eduardo Martinez, I know you were waiting for that. I hope you're well, bud. Happy holidays to you too. And getting back into this, if you think about it, and I compared this to a job, right? And some people say, well, relationship's not a job. It's a commitment, though. And a job's a commitment in some ways. And each relationship has some rules and regulations that are developed between the two. You know, you do this, I do that. You divide things, right? And so, you know, post-divorce, what I've seen a lot is people say, I don't miss my ex, or I didn't have that much of an issue when I got divorced. I didn't date for a long time, right? But they don't have as much an issue. And the reason for that, a lot of times, is you were checked out, or you knew it was the beginning of the end, and you knew inevitably this is a bad relationship, and you held on for an extra year, 2 years, 6 months to a relationship that was dying and wasn't good, got worse, And then a lot of times in marriages, the longer they go on with monotony, awkwardness, you just groove into, well, we've been married a long time. We've been married a long time, so we just deal with each other. And that's okay, by the way. There's some admiration in that, because what I consider marriage to be, and this is just my opinion, this isn't factual. And you always have to remember that. This isn't facts. This is my opinion, based on talking to a variety of people. And one of the benefits from my experience is I talk to people all over the world from different ages. So it's not just my friends. It's not just my family that I'm referencing, right? It's not just my immediate experience. What you have, though, is a marriage is a love pension. Does that make sense, Chris the Critic? I mean, if you have a job with a pension, a lot of times you stay grounded to that job for the pension, for the benefits of, if I do 20 years, I do 30 years at this job for the rest of my life, I'll get XYZ. That's a pretty good trade-off. Now, people don't think of marriage this way, but if you think about it, when you get into your late 60s, 70s, if you were able to stay with that person thick and thin, hopefully it works out to be a love pension. You don't want to be looking for someone in your 70s or 80s, even though you're capable of it. It's nice to have that. And so part of marriage is the up and down, the all around. Now, what happens, though, is people stay in marriages that are unhappy. And what happened is that something happened. There was a discrepancy, and a lot of times it leads to the amount of people I know that have been married 15, 20, 25 years that have come to me, right? That have come to me and said, I love my wife. We had a great relationship. We're still friends. We just couldn't be married anymore. And towards the end, we were sleeping in separate rooms. That is very common. Very common. Very, very common. And they just accepted. It doesn't work that well. We love each other. We care about each other, but we're not. The intimacy just flames out for a lot of people. I don't know if that's 15 years, 20 years, 10 years. It gets old. And it creates some bitterness. Now, I don't know what led to the end of the intimacy. That's something to be unpacked in a live coaching session, because there's a variety of reasons. But that's usually the beginning of the end, because you might as well be friends. And some people are okay with that. They're okay with that, right? But what happens is you get into a new relationship, and this new relationship is bliss, because you haven't had a new relationship in a long time. And let's just be honest, if you're of a right mind and you do things right, you can't control relationships. You can't control the inevitableness of a breakup. But I hope that when you get into a new relationship, when you start dating someone and they become officially your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your quote unquote partner, I hope that at least you get 6 months of bliss, 8 months of a honeymoon phase. I hope that you get that. And someone's told me before, there's nothing better than a new relationship or new love. And I'd say, yeah, if you're filtering correctly, of course. It should be rose petals and wine glasses. And when people say, oh, the first year was incredible, that's the way it should be. And then all the other crap starts to pour in. Life starts to happen, right? But if you've been in a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year marriage that was lethargic, mediocre at best, and the last few years you've been sleeping in separate bedrooms, avoiding each other at breakfast, looking on your phones, and just thinking to yourself, what am I doing in this relationship? Right? It's got no pulse. And then you finally go through what you've been putting to the side for years, and you get divorced. You do it. You go for it. And you actually realize, man, this is tougher than I thought. You know, there's some emotions, there's some feelings. I love this person. It's going to be difficult. There's some financials that have to be worked out, on and on and on. It's not easy, and that's why you've been putting it off. But you know it's right. And then you jump over that. The obstacle maze is over with. You get through it. The lawyers get their share. And maybe you take a month or two, maybe you take 6 months or two. I don't know. And you start dating again. And you meet someone that fulfills everything you didn't have in that marriage. You know, it's like going 0 to 100. It's a totally different level of relationship. And to me, neglecting yourself of something gives it more appreciation and more value. And so when you get into a relationship like that, you're like, wow, someone that I really want to hug and kiss and hang out with regularly, and we actually have conversation, because everything's fresh, everything's new. You get into that, and for 6 months, 8 months, a year, year and a half, 2 years, I mean, there's studies out there. I forgot what her name is. It's on the tip of my tongue. But she studied primates. I think it's Anne something. It'll come to me in a moment. I think the movie Gorillas in the Mist was actually made by her, the one with Sigourney Weaver, I believe. You know, she says it's 2 years. I don't know what it is. I've had people go, oh, we've had the honeymoon forever. Okay, good for you. You're an albino in the wild, right? Usually it's 2 years or less. You get to that point. If you had a nice 2-year run, go for you. Then things kind of settle in. Okay? Then you kind of settle in. That being said, what happens a lot of times, you get into a new relationship and the other person does something that would be completely opposite of what your partner in your marriage would do. And you're like, what's this? You liked the positive things. You know, the things that, you know, for example, the intimacy is 10 times better from the person you were with 15 years. Surprise, surprise. 20 years, right? That's a big one for men. If they've been neglected to that of a long time, that's huge. But then the new partner, the new girlfriend, the new boyfriend does something that surprises you or is shocking or something that you don't identify as something your girlfriend would do. And you're like, what? Because you just were in a 15, 20-year marriage where you ate shit and liked it for a while. And you're like, don't you see how great this is? This is what happens. So we got a couple stories on deck. Chris the Critic says, I've never thought of it that way. The love pension concept, Mac. That's a fascinating observation. Well, thanks, Chris. Rob IS, Guardian of the Gate, welcome. We only got 2 on deck. Well, that's better than 1. We're going to unpack these stories coming right up. If you have comments to make or questions to ask, go ahead and shoot. But we'll get into the stories now. Let's see here. This story just came in yesterday. Actually, so let me pull this up. Give me a moment. Patience is a virtue. All right, let's just take a quick look at the live stream before I start this one. Yep, we got 3 on deck. I actually usually like to start with a few more people to chime in. The time zone here. All right, let's start. Coach Mac, I was divorced about 2 years ago. It was a bad divorce, but she was a real C word. I'm going to let the audience decide what that word is. I don't miss her, but the divorce took a piece of me. And for many, that's financially, that wasn't it for me. We pretty much split things fairly. It was just her level of manipulation and masculine force. Wow, that doesn't sound like a very good relationship to be in. She pushed me around and I accepted it over a 10-year period. So what I find really interesting about this is you realizing that you accepted this. It wasn't forced upon you, right? I was put down a lot. She even made a fool of me in front of her friends. I won't go into that story, but I had to seek therapy after. Well, humiliation is something that's quite traumatic to the human being. I was messed up from the mind games. She was an intelligent woman that really knew how to get in my mind and wreak havoc. So about a year after therapy, that made me realize I wasn't a bad or defective person, which she implanted in my head. I started to date again. And about 10 months ago, I started a serious relationship with a good woman and opposite of my ex. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Someone that's not like your ex at all actually elevates their value. Sweet, caring, and honest. And she was nice to me. There's a concept. We fell in love and we eventually talked of marriage and kids. We both were in good positions financially, not rich, but we could buy a house together. Isn't that how everyone judges things? Buying a house is such a goal, like a universal goal, right, as a couple. It's interesting. It would be interesting to have a study of people that were couples or married and ask them just the simple question of, once you bought a house together and that was such a goal for you, how'd you feel? Was it that good? Or was there more stress that you now had a payment every month that was pretty high? Then about a month ago, things changed. She had an ex move back into the area and she let me know he contacted her and she would meet him maybe. Okay, the good part of this is she was honest and she told you about it. I was caught off guard and said, fine, if that's what you want to do. I didn't really pry about this guy, nor did she divulge much. And we were in a great place. So after that, they met. She let me know that he was a real jerk during the end of their relationship and he had some drug issues. Okay. I mean, from what you can tell here, though, she's done with him. I don't know why she'd want to meet him, but if she's a sweet, caring, and honest person, those types of people are low-hanging fruit for drug addicts to manipulate. And she was happy to be apart from him. She did give him a bit of money as he was down on her luck and felt bad, she said. That seemed fine to me, but then continued to call her and ask for money, and even got to a point where she'd be coming out of work and he'd be waiting and he'd always get a few bucks out of her. She's just a kind person that can't say no. She's too nice. And ironically, that's what you're attracted to. So finally I asked if she wanted me to confront this guy. She said no, that would be dangerous. He carries a knife or a gun at all times. I wouldn't confront him then. I think she's giving you good advice in that case. It's one of those things. Yeah, I'm going to stand up for my girlfriend. Are you willing to go there with it? I said, well, then let's contact the police. She agreed, but the police basically said something has to happen to act, and she wanted to file. And if she wanted to file a report on harassment, she could, but that wasn't going to fix the problem. So I went to talk to him as he waited for my girlfriend outside her work, as he was basically doing this daily. I introduced myself. I let him know whom I was and to leave my girlfriend alone. God, it sounds like high school, huh? Leave my girlfriend alone. He laughed at me and said, she's still in love with me. And then he started detailing what he's done with her intimately, which I won't repeat. It was extremely vulgar and BS. I got pissed and pushed him, for which he hit the ground and immediately yelled to call the cops, made this big scene. Cops came. He made up this big story that he felt threatened for his life. At that point, my girlfriend came out and actually got upset with me and believed his story. She's completely anti-violence and was upset with me to the point of crying. And like I said, again, ironically, this is what you're attracted to, that she's sweet, caring, kind, and honest. We talked the next day, and she said she just needed time alone, that I really disappointed her, and she told me to stay out of it. So I gave her a few days, and then I called her, but she didn't pick up. Now, 2 weeks later, present day, we've texted, and I feel we are on good terms, but she doesn't want to see me yet. And earlier today, I saw on her Facebook post that she posted that there's a thin line between love and hate. Now, I'm wondering, is that about me? See, this is the problem with social media. She could have heard that in a song. That's a popular song from way back when, right? That could be related to something completely different. I would have to know more about her character and her, but this is why social media during breakup, during breaks, just stay off it, because it opens up loops, cliffhangers that you don't know the answer to, and that are just gonna drive you nuts. Do I call her and ask her at this point? My quick answer, no. If you wanted to call her at this point because you guys are on good terms, you're not really broken up, she needs time away, you can, but I wouldn't go directly to that question. I think she'll be defensive about it. What did I do wrong here? Well, according to your story, you didn't do anything wrong. I think your ex would probably have a different opinion of this story overall, right? So, according to what you said, I don't think you did much wrong. Now, approaching this guy outside of her workplace that's been harassing her and getting money from her, I think, it looks like a great movie scene. You're going to defend your girlfriend. You're going to be a strong masculine type. But in this day and age, someone that's a drug addict that she says carries a knife and a gun, you got to be careful, man. I mean, the thing I always mention is you got to know your adversary or your opponent in this situation. How low are they willing to go? Are you willing to go that low? I mean, this guy, he didn't pull out a gun or a knife, but he's willing to fabricate that he's been hurt by you. He's desperate. And, hindsight's 20/20. Like, there's a lot of women out there that would find it extremely cool that you defended them and looked out for them. She's not one of them. She's extreme anti-violence. There's women out there like that too. There's men out there like that too. There's something in her past that promotes that. And that's, like I said, what you're attracted to because she's sweet and kind. But here's the thing. You did it already. You did it with good intentions. And this guy pushed your buttons in the first encounter. So he's a master manipulator, and a lot of drug addicts are. It's like one of those things. You think because someone's a drug addict, they can't be clever, right? When someone desires something or has tunnel vision or focus for something, and they put all their brain power into that, they can be a very effective individual. And if you think about it, in a drug addict, they've got tunnel vision. Money, get resources so I can get my drugs so I can get high. Or get money, get resources so I can get some alcohol. I mean, I'm talking about extreme characters in this sense. And so when you think like, oh, this person's not very sharp, they're off. If they use their brain in that capacity, right? It's a powerful individual. So he went straight for, how can I get money out of this individual? And so when you do talk to your ex, and I wouldn't bring up this quote that was on Facebook because it can mean 10 different things. And by the way, she could have put that quote up, and in the 10 minutes she was hanging out with a friend, she could feel that. And this is where people get really mixed up, is that women are more emotional than men. That's just true overall. They're more in their feelings. Men are more thinking creatures. That doesn't mean we don't have vice versa situations, or we don't have women that tend to be less emotional, all right? The world's changed. There's people that are more unique, more independent, and that's because of the internet and the availability of information and the changing of environments, right? So going back to your situation, Do not call her to address her Facebook quote. That's how she felt in a moment. She could, later that night, she could be missing you. And you're going to bring her back to have to explain what's the thin line between love and hate. Leave that alone if you want to work this out and get back together. And then maybe down the road, you mention it, but I still wouldn't. But you got a situation here. You got this guy who's basically attached to her for money, and she's got a sweet spot for him. And I don't think it's because of love or getting back together. It's more or less just pity. And some people that are really sweet and caring have a susceptibility for pity, right? And he knows buttons to push. He pushed a button on you right away to get him to get you to push him. So, what do you want to do now is stay the course. Maybe in a few days, if you don't talk, ask if you want to meet up for lunch or something like that. Because you're not in a no-contact situation here. She just needs time to process this nonviolence. Don't be aggressive or pushy in any way. If you can stay neutral, that'd be great. And the problem is this guy, right? So I would say right now, do not call about that and do not take any blame for this. I don't think it doesn't sound like she wants to beat you over the head with this. Give her the time to process. I think she'll contact you. All right, let me get into the live stream. Jen, hey, sorry I didn't get back to you while you were in California. I'm still going to schedule an appointment with you. I hope your trip was enjoyable. I'm still in California, Jen. I'll be here for probably 6 months plus. So my time zone for coaching is going to be 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I don't know if that's better or worse for you, but I'm here. After having 21-year relationship, my 4-month walked away and I was devastated. I stupidly assumed that one would last 20 years as well. There you go, Chris. So this is my whole point of the topic today is if you've had a relationship before, you're going to assume that some parts of your new relationship will go the same. And it's a knee breaker, man. It will get you because you're like, well, this was good, and you're going to bail for something petty or stupid or something you don't agree with. So it's very common, Chris. Brand new Skinner, Chicago's finest. Congratulations on the Bulls. They're doing very well this year. I'm happy for you. Why so serious? Hello, I was dumped after 14 years living together. I'm sorry to hear that. Dumped's a strong word. You can't ask a question. I have a question. Is it common that your ex blocks you on every platform while she is in a rebound relationship? I don't know the logistics of your breakup, what happened and why, but let me just give it to you like this. Why so serious? She broke up with you. You call it dumped, meaning you didn't want the breakup. Okay. What's up, Justin Brown? Meaning you didn't want the breakup, right? You were hurt by it. If someone says I was dumped, it means it was a negative. I didn't want it. Dare I say I was surprised by it. And now you're saying she's in a rebound relationship. So to me, if someone knows you didn't want the breakup and they're with someone new, actually blocking you is good for you. And it's actually caring of them. Okay, so what do I mean by that? If your interaction is going to be you trying to get on their good side or you wanting things explained, because let's face it, you lived together for 14 years. You want some things explained. You maybe want to work it out. They're in a new relationship, rebound or not. And a lot of people, oh, it's rebound. It's a rebound. Okay, fine, it's a rebound. The reason it's called rebound relationship and the reason why everyone in the world knows what a rebound relationship is because they're common. And people that are on the other end of that are like, oh, it's a rebound. It's never going to work out. This guy's a jerk or this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. I actually believe that your partner's doing you a favor by saying, I'm in a new relationship right now. I broke up with you for reasons. Hopefully she told you those. And that's what I'd ask you, why serious? If you weren't blocked, let's say the airwaves were open, why would you want to contact them if they dumped you after 14 years of living together? Do you want them to explain the breakup to you? Do you want to try to work things out? Or do you want to be friends with them? Those are your three options. Now, if you told me, oh, I want them to explain it to me. A lot of times in my experience of doing this, they've explained it to you. You just don't believe them or you don't like what you heard. Okay? In that particular case, there's nothing you can really do. Number two, you want to work things out, but they're with someone else. Rebound or not rebound. And by the way, a lot of males, when this happens, the guy's a jerk, the guy's an asshole, the guy's too cocky, it doesn't matter. They're with him. Okay? So do you think you're going to somehow slide in? And by the way, even if you slide in 14 years of living together, she's in a new relationship, you get her back, you don't think there's going to be some turbulence there? So someone blocking you isn't necessarily a negative. It's saving you some dignity because they know you're not happy with the breakup. They know that you want some explanation, that you want some friendship. And if you say, like, well, we could just be friends, are you being honest with yourself? Because most of the time, 14 years out, you got dumped. You don't want friends. You either want sympathy, pity, or you think by being friends, you can leave the door open. But if you're going to get through this, if you're really going to get through this, why so serious? Start now. Because it takes if you were together 14 years, it took a long time to break up. It's going to take a long time to get through this situation. But contacting them right now while they're in a new relationship, not just a rebound relationship, a new relationship, is just going to hurt you worse. It's just going to set you back. And I would highly recommend that you send your story into writemac.com and I'll unpack it with you in a coaching session. Because 14 years is a long time. And here's the thing. First coaching session, you just need a vent. You just need a vent. You probably need to do about a 2-hour plus session where you just tell me everything that happened. And I'm a damn good listener. Right? That's what I would suggest. That alone right there, having an individual listen to what happened, what went down, why, your feelings, your version of the story, is therapeutic beyond belief. This is very difficult to find a friend, family, or colleague that'll sit for 2 hours and actually listen without projecting what they would do or what's happened to them. And that's why you pay a therapist or a coach, a good one. Because your friends, family, and colleagues, they're just not versed in this. They'll just tell you what they would do, what they want you to do. And by the way, what they want you to do a lot of times, just get over it so we can stop talking about this and go back to being friends. Or they want to throw a pity party and have you jump on the wagon of hate all women. They're all cheats. They're all liars. Join me on that parade. So now I got someone else, right? So I mean, you understand where I'm coming from here? Yes, but it was so confusing because she was contacting me for my birthday and even gave me a monetary present, but a few days after she blocked me. Well, I mean, like I said, in a coaching session, I just have to ask you some questions and you'd have to lay out what happened, what went down, and why. So, if she's in a new relationship and she felt like you took that in a way, like I said, why so serious? Just tell me what you want by having the airways open. You want friendship? You want to get her back? Or you want her to explain things more? Or all of the above? What is it that you want by not being blocked? Parisa, welcome. Who else is here? I do have another story. This one's going to be quite long. We got 7 on deck, 2 likes. I appreciate the likes. Donations are welcome, or whatever you call them here. And if you have questions during the live stream, shoot them in. I want her back, of course. No, it's not of course. Does she know you want her back? And why do you want someone back after 14 years you lived together? And this is where I need to know your story to give you good advice. So this is what happens on the internet. This is what happens on YouTube. You type in, I want my ex back on YouTube. I have some videos. Other people have some videos, right? And this is where I've been doing this for 4 years plus now. Okay? That's a great question in your mind, but it's a unique question to your relationship. So you can ask these general vague questions and the internet will pop you back. Do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that, right? But are they really taking into account how unique your 14 years were? You see where I'm going with this? Go ahead and book a live coaching session. I'll help you out. If you don't like it, you don't feel like it helped you move forward, useful help, I'll give you a refund. I always offer that. Never had to do it. Never had to give a refund back, but I'm always open to it. But I'd highly recommend that. The idea that you want her back, of course, isn't a given. You want someone back and they're in a new relationship, it's damn good that you've been blocked. It's damn good you've been blocked. It'll save you some humility. Chasing someone that's in a new relationship is more painful, right? It's to me, even if you win and get them back, I mean, do you trust them? Good question, right? And then just, I'm glad to do it. I'm grateful for your answers. No worries. Why so serious? Let me ask you this, just on a closing note. This is a really good one for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your attraction and intimacy level with this woman right at the end of the breakup? On a scale of 1 to 10, what was your connection and chemistry? On a scale of 1 to 10, what was your trust with this? Was it she, right? So it was a woman. What was your trust on a scale of 1 to 10? Right at the point of the breakup. Right? And was this really a blindside collision where you didn't know it was coming or you knew it was coming? Those are your 4 questions. Go ahead and throw them in there. All right, let me get to the next breakup story. Like I said, it's quite long, which is not a problem. If you want to send your story into writemac.com, have me unpack it in a live stream like this, it's $25. That $25 gets applied to a coaching session. So if you do a coaching session for 2 hours in the future, I'll take the $25 back from it. Your name never gets mentioned. Details like that never get mentioned. So you won't be out there. Hold on a second. Let me pull this up. All right. Everyone on deck. Here's my story. My name is, we'll just say John, and I am 44. I have 2 wonderful kids from my previous marriage that ended in divorce because she cheated on me after 14 years of marriage. I have 50-50 custody of my kids, and my ex-wife pays for some alimony and child support. Let me just time check this. Okay. We are very civil with each other, and I would call us friends now. Well, that's a reflection of you also. My ex has been remarried and is very happy. I'm happy for her as well, and her new husband is a hard worker and very good to my kids. I wanted to give you some background here. Sorry for rambling. This is not rambling. Background's good. It gives me a little bit of a gist about your character. You having the ability to accept that your ex-wife cheated on you and you're able to have a civil relationship in the name of the kids and you're able to be happy for her says a lot about your character. So thank you for sharing that. That's not rambling at all. So after my divorce, I was devastated. It took me over a year to even consider dating and heal from this. I eventually started dating using dating apps, which is foreign to me being 44 years old. Like you said, with texting, I'm used to going out and meeting people. Anyways, after a few bad dates, I met, let's just say, Jen. I'll change the name. Mid-December, about 5 years ago, we started talking on the phone, and after she returned from California visiting family. We finally went on a date on New Year's Day. We had the best time. We went out for dinner and talked, and she ended up spending the night. So that's great. So you met someone, and by the way, this is how it is with dating apps now. It's you're gonna have to go through some bad dates. It's not easy for most people, but I think if you really think about it, was dating that easy? Dating is only easier based on the environment you're in. What dating apps have done is increased the options, but it's one of those things. Depending on who you are, it's almost like cold calling, if you've ever had to do that or you ever remember that in a business. I did it briefly. I had an internship in real estate eons ago in my 20s, and I hated cold calling. But to me, like, dating apps are similar to that. It's like a job interview. And some people are very good at it. We ended up spending lots of time together over the next several months or to a year. Jen is in education, very creative, very smart, is into arts, very passionate about the causes she believes in, would take road trips and camp, go out to dinner, and spent time playing games and talking. We generally loved each other and fell in love. She moved into my place, and I asked her to marry me about a year after we met, and she said yes. Wow, that sounds outstanding. I mean, the way you're describing who she is as a person, the way you guys fell in love, the time, good for you. We both had good jobs at the time and decided to rent a house together. I'm I won't say her job, of 20 years. She has been teaching for a long time. We had dealt with the normal relationship issues that did take a toll on us. She had to have a hysterectomy, which was hard. Also, we had disagreements about my kids going to private school. And also, she had an ongoing depression and other issues where she spoke with a psychologist and was on some medication on and off. Okay, so out of all these things, the different disagreement about maybe private school, hysterectomy, and then the depression thing, I would want to know, how long has the depression been an issue, and does she identify with that? We also had a big disagreement about her health with sleep. Okay, so there's sleep issues, there's depression issues, there's some health issues, and there's some differences in how you're raising your kids. So there's a lot there to get a marriage started. And this is where I've talked about long-term relationships. How are you going to make decisions together, and who's going to give in a little bit? I'm not telling you to give in. I'm saying that these are issues where someone's got to lose, right? You should do this with your kids. No, I'm not going to do it. Is that going to be that big a deal? I'm not putting my kids in a different school. I like the school they're in. So the one that stands out to me is depression and medication, and why that is. Fast forward, COVID, like I said, Jen's a teacher, very busy. She was stressed with her responsibilities, and also something fell through. I was at home over a year. She had no issues with that, but was worried about me not working. Well, that's a reason to be worried. I was dealing with depression and worried about COVID, and was not very positive at this time, especially as the time went on. I was worried about my family's future, had a few jobs fall through, and panicked about Jen, as she was still going on site before the vaccines were available. My kids were also being homeschooled at the time. So COVID and the situation with the pandemic really took a toll, because you lost your job. You're scared about that. Here's the thing. It's a domino effect. You lose your job. You're at home. You're thinking too much. The next thing comes up. And it elevates the feelings and the emotions to the original domino, which was just you losing your job. Our relationship really soured during this time. So that this is timing and circumstances. This isn't necessarily you. As I was in really bad place, Jen as well, we didn't do the same things like we did during the beginnings of our relationship. We spent a lot of time at home, but doing our own things, me worrying to get another job, her consistently worrying about her job. Our love life went to nothing as we both gained some weight, but since I had been working out again and lost my COVID weight. Isn't that funny that that's a term now, COVID weight, right? So what? Depending on where you were in the world, maybe you had to stay in a lot. That's understandable. If you took initiative to lose that weight, go for you. This all came to a head last week. This all came to a head in the last week of November after she had a really tough week. She's especially emotional around meetings with school. She also had a student funeral on her board meetings and had hate groups show up. That weekend, she had a convention that she returned home early from. When I noticed she was home early, I was on the couch on my phone looking for employment and said to her, I thought you had some meetings today. This triggered the breakup. She ended up packing things up and going to her family's home. They are back in another state, so she can stay there if she wants. During the time that she was packing her things, she kept telling me she was done, and I pleaded with her to sit down and talk to me, and she wouldn't. I attempted to call her, very worried about her, and left her voicemail and text. I just wanted to know her well-being, and I also was horrified that she was leaving me and the kids. Horrified is a very strong word. This eventually turned to anger because I was upset after almost 6 years she wasn't willing to talk to me. Wow, I didn't know it was 6 years because we went from the start of this to 6 years. Okay. I was upset after almost 6 years she wasn't willing to talk to me or my kids. She ended up not talking to me for days and finally responded very coldly with one-word text after texting. I was going to do a check-in. She communicated to me some of the things that really bothered her about our relationship, like me not allowing her to parent my kids. That's a big one. And me twisting things around in arguments. Okay, so first and foremost, one of the first things I can tell you is, do you think this is true? And how is it true? So is that true that you didn't let? And if she's in education and she's been a teacher, it's probably really important for her to put her stamp on your kids. That sounds tough for a lot of people, but she looks at herself as someone that's good with kids. And from what you're telling me, she doesn't have kids of her own. And me twisting things around an argument. Is that something you do? So I often like to ask people, do you believe this is true of you? And what are some examples of what she's talking about? And if you don't think it's true, have anyone else in relationships you've been in the past said this about you? I understand that she was very hurt and frustrated in our relationship, but we would communicate better with each other instead of running. Well, I mean, here's the thing. If you've been together 6 years and you're going downhill for a couple years, you said it started when COVID started. I've said this before, and anyone that's on the live stream right now, I'm not looking at the live stream right now, but to me, women have told me quite a bit when they're post-breakup, and women will hint. They won't point blank say stuff, and they'll be like, well, I said this, and then they'll tell me what they really feel, and that they really, did you say that to him? No, but he should know already. It's a very common theme. And from what you're telling me here with the lack of intimacy, some things leading up to this, there was plenty of hints. But men are like, tell me exactly what you want, right? Women generally don't do that. Jen, since then, has really ghosted me and my family. I've attempted no contact, hoping that she would soften up. But then, since then, she left. I attempted to talk to her via text. One thing that stands out to me that's very big is she said, I'm done. That is an identity statement. That's a very strong statement, and that's something that people are usually dug in on when they make a decision. And so I'm not trying to scare you with that comment, but I'm done as a significant statement. And words count. Words count in these situations when you look at them. And I would just ask, is she a stubborn person that sticks to her word? But since then she left, I attempted to talk to her via text on Thanksgiving, telling her how I have improved. My myself, new jobs, working out, getting counseling. I mean, do you think that this breakup was all about you? See, that's the thing that gets me. Is this all your fault? I mean, you're wilting in this situation. It doesn't seem like it's all your fault. You had issues with her too, correct? I brought up some of the things that she mentioned that bothered her, like twisting arguments in favor, and it triggered her again. She said, just leave her alone. Well, what's the alternative? To keep tapping her on the shoulder and saying you want to talk when she says to leave her alone? Leave her alone. Jen is still with her family being not her kids. She is still on her house. She is still on our house lease. We agree that she will continue to pay her portion of the rent. Well, that's big of her. And help with the utilities, in which she agreed. Leases until November. November of next year. She also still has furniture and lots of her things that I boxed up nicely and put in storage downstairs until she can pick them up. She continues to say she is busy, but will eventually pick up the rest of the things. Wow, that's pretty stand up that she's willing to pay her portion of the rent till November of next year. Wow. Well, that's one of those things that's a big deal. You have kids, you have bills to pay, and she's willing to do that. That's pretty stand up. I will say this, my youngest's birthday was on, I won't say the birthday, and she dropped off some nice kiss and a card saying, I care about you. This is not your fault. So right there, she's portraying that she values your kids, and she's got a real heart in that department. I was torn up by this because my kids love Jen very much, especially my youngest. They don't understand why she left, but I explained to them also in depth that her leaving was in no way was their fault. And she actually said that in the letter. So I actually got visibly upset in front of my kids when my youngest read the card. I always try to stay strong, but that got me. Something like that touches you, that's okay, man. There's certain things to be strong about. That's not necessarily one of them. And also my youngest mentioned to me one morning that he dreamed that Jen came back to live with us again, and we were happy. Recently, there really has been no contact at all, so I reached out to Jen just asking how she has been, if she was doing anything fun for the holidays, and actually got another short, cold response stating she was going to visit her aunt and uncle, and that said again she needed to get the rest of her stuff, and that she would be, and what would be a good time. So what stands out to me is she's moved far away with family, with extended family, and she's very comfortable where she's at. She's so comfortable right now that she's able to even pay half the rent. Her being able to change environments like this and be close to family will help her make a decision on either revisiting this relationship or moving forward. I responded, there is no rush, and she was packed away nicely downstairs. You're handling this very well from what I'm reading. The main thing is, post-breakup, a lot of people beg and plead, especially men. They want to make changes. They want to do better. They see all the problems. But one thing that you haven't done is you haven't erupted or done something you can't take back or say something you can't take back. Okay? And so right now, even though you've hit some roadblocks or she hasn't responded kindly or receptively to you trying to get back together, you leaving it alone now and putting in the effort is something for her to sit on. And if she is going to come back, which there is no guarantee, or she is going to consider it, she will do it on her own terms and with you leaving her alone to think about it. And the fact that you haven't done something significantly horrible post-breakup, like I said, just say something out of character or say something extremely mean or demand something unreasonable. You haven't done that. And that's a good thing. I also told her about my second job, been working out, lost 30 pounds, have been eating better, and quit drinking again. I got no response after that. So this is one of those things that she's not impressed by that. And to be honest with you, and this is good that you wrote your story, a lot of people do this. It shoots a jet up your ass to get things done, to get back on deck, to quit all your vices. And this is a good thing. This is why this breakup had to happen, because if you continued on, you would have been extremely overweight. You maybe would have become a drunk. So this is a good thing. The breakup had to happen. She doesn't want to hear, oh, I did this, I did that. She's dug in. She said she's done. She's already moved out. But all those things you've done, outstanding. I'll give you a pat on the back. Okay? And if she does decide to come back, which probably won't be anytime soon, if it was a 6-year relationship, it was hard for her to do this. Those things will count later on, but it's not going to be because you told her about it. Got me? My kids and I filled out Christmas cards for my family and friends. We filled out one for Jen, but I was reluctant to send it. Yesterday, after hearing she was going to another city where her family's at, or extended family, I actually bought her a $100 gift card and wrote her a kind of closure letter telling her how I felt again, telling her how I'm working on myself and that I was sorry our relationship didn't work out. I miss her a lot. The door is open if she ever wanted to talk, but at the end of the letter, I put, I know you will find someone special. Okay. I got to take a deep breath on that. I mean, is that what you really want? You already wrote the letter, so it's okay. I also told her and reflected on all the good times we had in our relationship. I included this letter and the gift card in the letter and was going to drop off the card at her family's house. Ended up running into her sister there and talked to her for a bit. Her sister is a very nice person, and I asked her if she knew that we were done, and surprisingly, she told me she didn't. She told me Jen showed up randomly for Thanksgiving and didn't eat and really hasn't been talking to her. Okay. But knew she was staying at her parents' place. Her sister also didn't know Jen was going to this other town until recently when they spoke. And you know more than me. So right now, the sister, who you think would be a good source, doesn't know a whole lot. The sister could be, not wanting to get involved. A lot of times when you go to family members, it's a major no-no in my book, but people do it all the time. They go, oh, the sister or brother likes me, and they're going to, in a lot of cases, they don't want to get involved. They want to stay neutral, and if they do want to get involved, they have an objective to either push you away or to bring you back in. Whatever it is, they're not going to talk an adult, a full functioning adult, into being back with you. And this isn't what you tried to do, to be fair. You didn't try to get them to talk you into getting back together. You were just digging for a little information, which from what this person told you, it seems like they're not, skipping with joy over the breakup. It sounds like she's a bit stubborn and she's made a decision she wants to stick to. Now, there's people like that. They make a decision. They say, I'm done. They're done. Now, the good news on this is I've heard a very similar breakup to this. Very similar breakup to this. And even the card part is what reminded me of it. The card part, I'm like, you wrote the card. But for a 6-year relationship with kids involved, and she likes the kids, she's into the kids and all those other things, there's a lot of attachment and entanglements for her too. The woman did actually come back to the guy. And when we do a coaching session, which you said you want to sign up for, I'll tell you more about that later. The main thing that you're doing correctly is you're not calling her repeatedly. Okay? And so I don't have a problem with the letter. Saying that I know you will find someone special, I don't think that's really what you want, but don't worry, that's not going to put any extra weight on her decision either way. I gave the card to her, and she said that we put it on the counter for her. I didn't expect a response from Jen, which it's been 24 hours and got none. I will also say Jen didn't return my engagement ring or the necklace I bought her. Very common. Very, very common. And the reason why I had a little laugh is the other person that I'm thinking of had the same thing happen. The necklace and the ring are special to her. I want to tell you I love Jen with all my heart and would do anything to get her back. I don't mean having her move back in. I think we should do this slowly. She's in the mindset where she's moving on, but I'm willing to wait. I mean, one of the biggest things is she had a soft cushion being able to move in with her family to a town that she's familiar with. For the intel you got from the sibling, sounds like it's not going great. 6 years is nothing to just throw away, and I would say there is a 50-50 chance here if you just leave it alone. That being said, we still need to do a coaching session to get deeper on this. And this is what happens. Coaching sessions, well, you didn't tell me that. Well, you did tell me this. And we can get a lot deeper because there's a lot more twists and turns to this. But I am willing to wait, work on myself, and give her a chance to cool down. My fear is that she moved on already, but I don't have any indication of that. That's always the fear. You know, even if she dated someone else, which is a possibility, you don't want to know. Okay, she's in another city or state, evidently. Because I don't know where you're at right now. That being said, this is timing and circumstances, and it's the same thing that happened in this other breakup I'm thinking of. And the pandemic and staying inside and losing your job, all matriculated into this. And now you're in a much better place, and you couldn't get to that place without this breakup. I personally am heartbroken. I'm trying to keep myself busy with work, working out, spending time with the family. I tear up and cry sometimes. I know this is not manly, but I am in love with it. It's okay. Crying, if you have to cry, go do it in private. Get it all out. It's actually a clearing emotion. It's actually very good for you. It's very good for you. And I would say the reason I say to do it privately is not because I find that you're unmanly doing it. It's just that you can get it all out then and not hold back. And after 6 years, know in my heart that our relationship can be fixed. Okay, we'd have to talk about that. She's acting really cold. I don't know if she's intentionally doing that to hurt me or just show me this is over and doesn't want to hurt me. To me, she made a decision. She said, I'm done. She moved. See, when people make certain, like out of a breakup, okay, when you live together and you've been through a lot, once someone moves out, they got to test it. They're not going to move back in. It takes a lot of work moving out. Does that make sense? So they're not going to just get back together or contact you or text you. They're going to have to see what it's like, even if it's miserable for 6 months or a year, right? Depends on how stubborn they are. And that's a big step, right? In the process, you're doing the right things. You're going to work, you're working out, and you're dealing with your feelings. You're not getting drunk every night. You're not a drug addict, right? So you're dealing with this up front, and I give you respect and honor for that. I really need to talk to someone and get some advice and would appreciate your help. So here's reading your story. I appreciate you sharing this on the live stream. I would highly recommend a live coaching session. I think it would help you out a lot in just getting some clarity on where you're at and also just venting it all out. Okay, and I look forward to talking to you too, actually. All right, so let me get back into the live stream. Chris Puckett, thank you kindly for the $4.99. You're good people. So, Brand New Skinner says, thought you got kidnapped. You didn't see me on a milk carton, did you? Do they even do that anymore, the milk carton thing? Chris Puckett would know about that. Remember when you were a kid, they had the milk carton? I saw you on a milk carton. I want her back, of course. I'm glad to do it. Hendrik Kramer from the Netherlands. How are you doing? How have you been, Mac? I've been good, man. It's been good to get back into the States. I do miss Thailand at times. I'm definitely cold. I haven't been in cold weather this much in years. I haven't been home for Christmas, I think, in 4 or 5 years. Only once in 10 years. So it's definitely different, but it's kind of cool changing the live stream time to 11 a.m. Pacific time. So some of you out there that are saying, I'm not a night owl, right? I'd like to see your live stream. So this is going to be a different time zone. I'm going to be incredibly consistent at 11 a.m. each day. And I'm just doing a brand new Skinner. I'm doing a hypnotherapy certification course right now that's pretty intensive. And that's what I'm segueing into is hypnotherapy. If you ever want to try to do some hypnosis, if you're ever curious about that, Skinner, regardless of your breakup, if you want to, I don't know, think about your future and what your future would look like. I have some guided meditations I do now that are really good. So I've gotten to a point where I've learned a lot as a coach, learned a lot as a teacher. You gain wisdom every year with every client and every experience. And to me, hypnosis and hypnotherapy used correctly is probably one of the most powerful things you can do. And Chris, who just dropped $4.99, has done hypnotherapy with me before and had a very positive experience from it, and it helped him out a lot. And I'll talk about that probably in future live streams. But I'll be clinically certified. Is that right? Clinical certification in hypnotherapy. It's a pretty intensive program. Francois, it's been a while. How have you been? Yeah, it's been a while. Happy holidays. V. Lillian, I agree. Everyone is like, let's buy a house together. We can be a real couple. I find it so stupid. I mean, the thought of buying a house with someone terrifies me so many reasons. Well, I don't know if it terrifies me, but it's just, it's a goal everyone has, but at what expense, right? And, is it that good? I'll tell you what, though, if you hold a house for 10 years, 12 years, it's a stroke of genius financially, usually if it's the right neighborhood and place. I was in real estate as a real estate agent in the Bay Area for about 4 years. It was a bad time in real estate. And then, of course, after I left, it just boomed for the next 10 years. But I learned a lot. And one of the things was there was an old timer at the time that owned a lot of property. He goes, I don't care what you buy, but if you buy it and hold it for 10 years plus, it's a stroke of genius. I don't know if that's true of every property in every area, but right now in the States, it seems like all the markets are hot. So if it's a business transaction you can trust someone with, honestly, I think a lot of people aren't looking for love, but a partner to share living expenses. That's what it turns into, right? Because I'll tell you one thing about the States and California. It got expensive, but actually, I won't get into it. It's really just inflation, folks. It's just inflation. It's not that things got more expensive. It's the dollar isn't worth what it was worth. I agree. It's sad and scary. People need to be more independent and learn how to enjoy their own company instead of settling for whoever just so they can have a freaking house together or a car together. This sounds personal, Lillian. Do you have a story to this? I believe a lot of people are struggling and figure they can get further faster with someone else who helps cover rising cost and living expenses. The housing costs are astronomical in some places. I'm sure it's on their mind. There's a lot of couples out there that, like I said, they got that honeymoon phase. Things go really good the first 6 to 8 months to a year, 3 months, 4 months. And it's like, why don't we just live together so we don't have to pay so much for our independent places? It's a nice thought, and I think there's good intentions there, and it does work for some people. I'll tell you this. It's different when you live together. And when you live together, you really get to know someone. And I was told a long time ago, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, your roommates' problems become your problems when you live together because they're your roommates. Your family's problems become your problems when you live together because you live together. And your partner, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, and wife's problems become your problems when you live together. So, when you're observing the relationship outside of great intimacy, great conversation, just look at some of the problems that your girlfriend has with her family. My dad always needs to borrow money from me. I hate this. He's broke. you know, he has nothing. He can't work anymore. That's tough. He drinks a lot, right? And you think, wow, okay, dad needs a little extra money, this, that, and the other. That's going to be your problem, too, when you live together. Rent comes up. Bills come up. Dad comes up. Okay? Now, I'm not saying to be insensitive, right? I'm not saying to be insensitive. That's not my thing. I'm just saying to consider, and and it's hindsight's 2020. And you start look at the reasons you broke up with someone that you lived with or with for a long time. Were some of the reasons that you broke up with them not just character flaws, because there's character flaws, right? Like they're a liar, like they're really bad with money, like they don't take care of themselves. And what do I mean by that? I mean, they don't eat healthy or go to the gym and they let themselves go. Okay. But sometimes you break up and you look at some of the problems that surround them that are kind of out of their control, or they believe are out of their control, and they're problems you didn't want to take on. Think about that one. For example, Chris, let's say you break up, and Chris, I got you, bud. I'll check the story in a minute. Let's say you have a relationship, and this came up with a client in the past, and it's rose petals and wine glasses. It's outstanding. It's wonderful. It's great. Intimacy's extremely incredible. Connection and chemistry out of this world, and you got enough trust to make it work. But there's this issue that they got a couple friends that have been their friends since childhood that are bad news bears, that are bad characters, that when they hang out, your girlfriend is at her worst. And you can see it. You're like, wow, like you shouldn't be hanging out with, Joan and Jan, because when you hang out with them, you just get wrecked, drunk, and they say things to you to put you down and make you feel bad. And you can see this. But it's their best friends from childhood. And they're not going to turn their back on them, because that's like family, because when they were young, their mom wasn't around and Joan and Jan were there for them. That's one of those things you put off, becomes a bigger problem and a bigger problem, because Joan and Jan might want to move in with you guys. They might want money down the road. You see where I'm going with this? Be cognizant of it for long-term relationships, for marriage, for things that are long-term, because those things don't go away. They just grow into bigger problems. All right. Yeah, the post-breakup beg, please. Worst thing you can do. It's the worst thing you can do, but if you do it in small amounts and then let it go, it's okay. Continuing to do it to a point where you just are the annoying salesman tapping on their shoulder over and over again, that's when there's a point of no return. Doing it for a week or two out of a 5-6 year relationship, or checking back in 6 months later, it's not the point of no return. The point of no return is when you're just like showing up again and again and again and again. Yeah, not calling repeatedly is one of the things he did right. Are you going to stay in Cali permanently? People used to ask me the same thing about Thailand, and nothing's permanent in my life. So I probably will be here for a good 6 months, Angel Jimenez. Like I said, this will be favorable for my hours. 9 to 5, Monday through Friday on coaching. 11 a.m. for the live stream at this point. Chris says, I got a quick story for you. I'll check that in email in a moment. Thanks for the $19.99 on top of the $4.99. Chris, doing work. I agree. Don't beg. Sometimes you just have to let some things go There are billions of people in the world and you are stuck on one. Go explore a few. Well put. Easier said than done in certain situations. You just got to catch yourself. Sometimes I'll say, well, what's the alternative to no contact? All right, someone says, I can't. What's the alternative to no contact? Begging and pleading? I still have a house in Thailand. Yes, Skinner. Yeah, so I still have a tie there. Yeah, I didn't erase my identity over there. I still got my place. True, the annoying salesman. Some people go in that direction. It's just a good way to put it, right? The annoying salesman. So then it has a little bit of idea, because everyone's been annoyed by a salesman before, right? I mean, there's nothing worse where you're like, at this point, I'm interested in buying a car, but I would never buy one from you. I was thinking about buying a t-shirt, but I'll never buy one from you, and I'll never come to this store again because you're just annoying, and you're an insult to my intelligence. And by the way, I say that, and I've been in sales before. I've sold shoes for 4 years, right, when I was in college. I know what it's like. But there's a way to be authentic. There's a way to be non-pushy. All right, let's get into CP's story. Let's see if it came through the... All right. So it's more like a quick question. You know my story pretty well. Mid-40s, I was with my ex-girlfriend for over 3 years. We broke up a year ago. I went no contact for at least 8 months with her. She reached out of the blue, but when she came back to me, I just spewed all my emotions on her and told her how much I loved her and told her that I wanted to marry her and make a family with her. I would never tell her that when we were together. Yeah, you just went 0 to 100, and the reason she called you out of the blue is because you went no contact, right? You went no contact, and you were a strong, confident individual in most ways. And then I think knowing your situation a little bit better, though, the timing of when she called you back, CP, created a little bit more of that, wanting to do that at that time. I'm the one that broke up with her, and over a course of our relationship, I broke with her at least 4 or 5 times. I was just having fun, and I wasn't serious. She wanted to get married. She took care of me like a wife would. When my mom was passing away, I really loved this girl. I broke her heart when I broke up with her the last time. She's about 15 years younger, but when she reached back out to me out of the blue, I just told her all of this stuff and went away over the top with it. I probably sent her 3 or 4 very long emails explaining why I broke up with her. She's probably the best love of my life, and I really do miss her, and I really am honest saying that. I want those things with her. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, timing and circumstances have changed since those 8 months ago for you and her. The fact that you spewed all that out when she called was not the best move. Writing her letters and just saying, well, I want to get married. I want to get married. There's some steps before that. And even if you go, well, that's what she wanted. It's not what she wants now. She's probably peeking her head in the door going, well, what happened to that guy that was so strong and confident before that just, floodgates are open? But when I asked her to meet up for lunch or for coffee recently, she said no. She said she had to do a lot of things going on in her life and didn't want to mess them up. So she reached out to me. I spewed all my emotions in her emails. And then when I asked her to meet up, she said no. Well, that's just timing. So what should I do now? I was going to ask her to meet up again next week, but maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should go away now and let another 6 months go by. I think in your particular case, go ahead and ask her one more time. I'm okay with that, because she reached out to you out of the blue, and I know what she said in those, and you had a good long talk. But when you reach out this next time, if she says no, you don't say, oh, I wanted to marry you, I miss you so much. You just say, okay. And then you leave it alone. And then if by chance you're in her area again or something comes up in 3 to 6 months, I think you can ask her out. But you just have to be to a point where you can be stoic with her response. You can ask her out, but not be attached to the answer, if that makes sense. And now, if that's possible, if you're in that zone right now, then do it. If you ask her out and she says no, and you need an explanation, and you need to tell her you're going to marry her and how much you love her, then don't ask her. But you're completely okay to ask her out right now for lunch again. Because I know your situation, by the way. People are like, wait a minute. I know CP's story and all this other thing. I know the background. That's why this is a little unique. And I don't think you're being weak or needy by asking her out. Calling and texting in between asking her out would be wrong. But I would definitely say go for it. Go for it. But be okay with her saying no and leave it alone. Because I think what you're doing here is you're the one that broke up with her numerous times. You're reestablishing, hey, I got an interest, but I'm not desperate. And I think what you did is when she did reach out to you and you were at a vulnerable time, and the timing was right for you to go, oh my goodness, I can't believe she reached out. This is all I ever wanted, right? And so timing and circumstances are big. So to reestablish that you're okay with her saying no, like I said, if you ask her out one more time, just, okay. Be okay with it. But right now that she's opened up the air to you and she's basically let you know that she missed you too and you were a significant part of her life, that's cool. Keep the contact alive. But quit conveying marriage and getting back together and all these deep, big commitment type things. Stay as present as possible. Your mission is to be okay with her saying no, because you're okay with that. You're not. This isn't the last woman on earth, right? This isn't the only woman that'll ever make you happy. You had a good thing. You had an extremely good thing. The person you were in the relationship that she was in love with wasn't the same person that's saying, I want to get married right now because you just called me. Right? So go ahead and ask her out again. I'm fine with that. Just be okay with wherever the domino falls or the cards fall, right? That's the main thing. And then keep being you. Right now you're in a really good place. You're not in the same place you were when she first reached out to you. You got any more questions? Go ahead and throw them in the live stream. Buenos dias. I'd like to go to Buenos Aires. G Money. What's up? It's subconsciously send her different signal when the sort of communication happens. G Money, hey there, long time no see. Got the band back here. Chris Boutron, how you doing, bud? Thanks for checking in, Chris. I'm great. Yeah, that's the key here. Demonstrate interest, but not desperate. Most guys get that sort of dynamic wrong. And the thing is, even though you broke up, you had 8 months of silence. Good for you, right? You're reestablishing something here, present. Some people circle around with contact out of bedroom, so never show your cards too soon when someone circles back around. Rob, I need you to open up shop. You and Matt could partner up every couple months for podcasts. I need you to open up shop, Rob. Haven't you been Haven't you been on in a while, but I always follow up on your video. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it, bud. Well, right now, questions are open, folks. We're an hour and 24 minutes in. I do got some things to do. Got a live coaching coming up, but I got about 10 minutes. Very, very, very good. why post-divorce relationships are tough. And I would add to that any long-term relationship. When you get into a new relationship, especially if your long relationship was sour at the end. Oh, good question. Will you do past life regression therapy hypnosis? I'm being trained in it. I've just had my first experience with it actually a couple weekends ago in the course, so it's pretty interesting. That could be something that could be talked about in a whole show. Really interesting. I haven't decided if that's going to be something I do or not. I've experienced a bit of it, and it's interesting. It's really interesting. And it was something before I took this course that I wasn't expecting would be there, but I was aware of it. Are you interested in past life regression therapy? Hypnosis? If I went through one divorce, there's no way I would ever get married again. Right on, CP. Thanks for sharing. And like I said, go for it and just hold your frame afterwards regardless. You're going to be okay. I think that you're not ruining things by asking her out. No more letters, no more marriage vows, though. Women want challenge. High quality women want a challenge of some sort. And you were providing her with a lot of challenge throughout the relationship. Whether you view that as a positive or negative now, it creates attraction. Now, there's a line of when it's too far, right? But I can't count the times that I've known some friend of mine or a client that from the outside in could be a mild jerk. I'm trying to be nice. Or dominate the relationship or get his way a lot of times. Do what he wants. Not be too, I don't want to use the word committed, but invested in his girlfriend's opinion. And the minute he drops his arms and says, I want to marry you, you're the love of my life, I've just realized because something happened that made them realize that, it's like someone took a needle and put it through the balloon of love. It's really interesting because I've had women come to me and go, I don't know why I'm attracted to jerks all the time. And it's like, the challenge, the roller coaster ride versus safety, security, predictability, monotony, mediocrity. And some people settle for that. And that's okay. And this is what I've learned. What floats your boat? Who am I to tell you what you should like? Right? Do you ever believe in breaking no contact, Mac? Absolutely. I just need to know your story first. So there's plenty of times where I've told people, it's okay to contact them. And sometimes, Chris the critic, breaking no contact because you have to get something out or you have to check in. It might not be the best thing for you to increase your chances of getting back together, but it might be the best thing for you to move on. I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but what I mean is that sometimes I'm like, go ahead and call him. Well, wait a minute. I don't know if it's, well, go ahead. Me just telling you it's okay to do it actually takes down the resistance. You fighting the urge to call someone or contact someone that you know is probably not going to be receptive. And that's the thing. No contact is reserved for we agree to disagree. It's reserved for I know what I want is not what they want. It's reserved for they broke up with me, not me broke up with them. But there are certain incidences where people, this is the only way to get someone back. Well, if you're trying to get yourself back on deck, sometimes a slap in the face, a rejection one last time, sometimes that's what you need. I don't always think sometimes I'm like, go ahead and break no contact. What do you mean? If you want to call them. But just ask yourself, what's your expectation and what's your intention in this situation? Just like when people go, well, I just want to be their friend. Really? You going to be honest about that? Well, let me tell you the truth. Ask yourself, why am I contacting them? Can I live with them saying no to me? Can I have a conversation without anxiety? Right? If you can do that, then go ahead and break no contact. It's fine. Now, if you've been, if they're seeing someone else, come on. That's one of those ones like, really? What's the alternative? Hey, if you want me to be a backup plan, even though we were together for 5 years, I can fall into place. Well, that's going to destroy all your dignity and pride, and you're going to be resentful later on. It's hot right now. It has been hot for a while. I've wanted to do that for years. What's that? Past life regression therapy. Well, if you want to try it with a student of it, I can set that up for you actually, and you can do it with someone that's getting certified, and might even get it done for free. That's hot, right? It's hot right now. Past life regression is hot right now. Do you have a lot of friends that have done it? I'll tell you about my experience with it, my brief experience with it. I was surprised by it. I was really surprised because it's not I'm one of those people, I can be skeptical, but I'm open. When I don't know about something, I'll ask questions instead of assume that something's wrong. Or experience it. Like, let me try this. Let me see if it goes somewhere. But past life regressions, I haven't heard of many cases where it's going to hurt you. But I had an interesting one where I went under myself, really enjoying the hypnotherapy thing, really enjoying it. And it's just a great modality that's really out of context with stage hypnosis and all the jokes and movies and negativity that's come out about it before, because it's highly effective. Being in trance is the equivalent of watching TV. It's when you're extremely focused on something. And so being in trance during therapy or one of these things just drops your guard. And basically it's putting you in a situation where you're almost like guided meditation, but you're interactive at that point. It's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. And if I had to pick one therapy, that would be my choice. A challenge does create attraction for men and women. It's like a really high value woman or highly coveted woman that gets a lot of attention. If some guy challenges her, like she hasn't been challenged before, or she gets rejected, man, that's an interesting case. I've seen that happen before many times. Many clients have come to me before. I don't know why I'm so into this guy. It's the first guy that's challenged them in a long time, that's not overly interested or overly invested in them, and they can't believe it. Makes you feel like you worked for it, earned it, so you value it more. It's sort of a paradigm. Doesn't usually go both ways. Okay, that's between you two. Once the guy becomes too easy to get, typically the girl will subconsciously find that a non-challenge, in some cases repel attraction. Well, you're speaking about it for all women, but you're really talking about yourself, right? That's projection, right? Once a guy becomes too easy to get, typically the girls subconsciously find a non-challenge. Typically you have that happen. So I need to play hard to get. You know what? Personally, my personal thing is for feminine and masculine, I think that men, I don't like the term hard to get, but men need to be a challenge more for women, I feel like. If a woman is in a situation where she wants to challenge a guy to make the guy chase her, in most situations she's going to end up with a guy that she ends up breaking up with quite fast. Can you do a live stream about your experience with the topic in general? Sure. No, not today, but in the future. Absolutely. You can, but how's it more responsible? What about disappearing sometime and return randomly to a stream and say, oh no, that's where I found the idea, so it didn't work. All right, folks. I think that's going to be curtains for today. This has been good. This has been grand. Thanks for supporting the channel and the stream. Maybe I'll do a talk about past life regression or hypnotherapy in a future live stream. Unpack some things. And if you want to do some hypnotherapy, past life regression, go to my site and book a session. We can do it. Absolutely. It's very interesting stuff. And I think what's interesting about hypnotherapy is a lot of people are interested in meditation, right? And they're like, I can't meditate. I can't meditate. Well, surprise, surprise. We have a lot of distractions in the world right now, so that doesn't help you meditate, right? Hypnotherapy is basically a form, to me. Trance is a form of getting in a meditative state, but sifting through specific problems, issues, limited beliefs. And that approach to me works. It's worked for me in the past. And so that's why I was like, how can I help people to the best of my ability with their problems, their breakups. Breakups are all intertwined with other things. So, all right, folks. It's been good. It's been grand. It's curtains.